Testing, testing. This one is why it sucks being black. Now, of course, I believe towards the end, I think this is like a clickbait title. It's a very short video, but I just want to do a review. I want to do a review, right? Let's see. Let's see what he's giving. Oh, wow. Mouth wide open. Okay, well, no judgments here. Let's go.
I hate being black. Yeah, I said it. I hate being black. And more specifically, I hate being a black man. I know. From the outside looking in, it looks like it has unlimited perks. You're athletic, you're born with a third leg, and you automatically can dance. I mean, it just seems like a win-win, right? Wrong. And listen, I know I'm doing a horrible job at not sounding like a raccoon right now.
I don't have a third leg. I can do the other stuff, though.
But hear me out. Growing up as a black boy, if you weren't either extremely good at sports or a thug, yes, I said a thug, you had to literally be a YN to be accepted. If you didn't fit into those two criteria or were somehow related to someone in those two positions, you were at the bottom of the social hierarchy. And the only acceptable artistic endeavor you could pursue was being a rapper. But even then, the only option is to do gangster rap and talk about a thug lifestyle. If you try to take...
I ain't gonna lie. For the longest time in the black community, there's always been this thing. Well, in my last video, I was talking about how a lot of times we have issues with how we view blackness and how a lot of people don't actually like being black, simply due to the fact that it was conditioned in us that there's only this one rigid idea of what it means to be black. Even when discussing black culture as an American, it's always discussions where it's like we talk about the same stuff, and at the lead, I hate when people talk about culture because when we talk about music, we don't talk about R&B, we don't talk about country, we don't talk about soul, we don't talk about even aspects of pop, we don't talk about jazz. We don't talk about any of these other genres that we have been a part of that we created. We always lead with hip hop because hip hop is like something that has been the leading genre of music for at least 2 decades now, right? I mean, for a good minute, hip hop's been like really giving, right? But you know, that's limiting towards just how much black people have created, just how much black people, black Americans specifically, have contributed. Up as somebody, I think what stopped me from being a coon, which is such a crazy thing to say, what stopped me from being a coon was that I had very negative experiences with other black people in terms of like aspects of homophobia, aspects of fat phobia with like a dash of colorism. You know, there were certain things that I was told, you know, kids like to pick on other kids. They call you gay. They say you black as hell. Or one was they turn the lights off. It's like, where's so-and-so go? That's like something that, you know, that's a classic. I didn't hear nothing about African booty scratcher or nothing like that. It was really just you dark as hell, you fat, you ugly, you know, you black as hell, kind of stuff like that, right? Just regurgitating a lot of anti-black stuff, right? And kids will be kids, and that's just the unfortunate thing about it. And I think that when a lot of black Americans or other black people in America, they say they hate being black, I think I resonate somewhat with what he's trying to say, because I'm going to put it in the bio, where I have a whole blog where I says I hated being a black man simply due to the fact that I don't hate being a black man. I like being a black man, but I hated the particular type of stereotypes and the particular type of things that you have, the boxes you have to check in order to be a successful black man. Because I was someone who was feminine. I was someone who, I didn't really like anime, but I was artsy. And I had a lot of people that supported me. I had a lot of black people who looked like me from different communities like me who did support me, did think it was cool, did think it was great. I was privileged enough to have a family that supported my artistic endeavors and still do to this day. And so I somehow was able to navigate where I did have to deal with that stuff, but I didn't have so much people putting me down and so much of negativity coming towards me where I associated every single awful thing with blackness. I think that because of the way people grow up and because of the different experiences that they have with blackness from other black people, from even white people, there's this thing where they associate blackness with all things negative. Even when I say something like, oh, I just love black people, there will always be somebody, whether it's like a rage bait or something, they'd be like, well, it's not, why is it always about race? Right? Anytime I've seen people online and even in real life where they try to associate something positive with blackness, suddenly we need to let go of race. Suddenly someone's like, why we always gotta make it about race? Even when you were saying something positive. Because it's almost this thing where it's like it's ingrained within the identity itself for it to have only negative connotation, for it to only have something where it's like we're making it out of something, we're going through something. You can't ever have positivity within aspects of blackness. And I said that within my other video where I was like, I think because of the origins of what it means to be black, the origins of that title black in the West, in America, of it being from somebody, from white supremacists, how they created that and they used that in order to dehumanize us. And black Americans were trying to flip that on its head and try to build something positive out that, even years down the line, where we do have autonomy, we do have progress, we do have a whole bunch of things that have happened, there's still this residue that I feel that's happening within people's consciousness or in their mind, where even if they are not outwardly, anti-black, even when they are outwardly actually pro-black, there's still this thing where it's like this instinctual feeling of, oh, but this is negative, or this feels weird to think positively about blackness, or this feels weird to support something and it's black. This feels weird to look at that and it's black, because just how insidious white supremacy was and just how foundational it was to a lot of different types of dynamics in our societies.
You're wrong. See, for a white kid or an Asian kid, it's normal if they pursue engineering, they're interested in computer programming, if they watch anime, they're allowed to have interests outside of being an athlete or a thug. But don't let a black boy have any interest outside of those two professions. You say you like anime?
No, I don't believe this. I hate that this is like this. That's what I'm saying. Like, there needs to be a conversation about. I feel like there needs to be a conversation about class, right? Because every time I hear something like this, it's like, I understand what he's saying. Like, people used to make, but used to make fun of you about anything. Oh, like you smart or something. Oh, you think you smart as hell. Oh, you think. Because I have noticed, I'm going to somewhat agree. I have noticed, like, when I was in high school, back in the olden days, that there was some of the smartest people came from the hood. And I know that sounds like crazy, but some of the smartest people came from the hood. They just so happen to grow up in the hood. You don't control where you grow up at, right? I don't like some of these types of statistics that some intellectuals say, where they're like, oh, well, statistically speaking, if you come from low income areas, you're not going to be as smart as people. That's a negative, right? There's people who are rich as hell. They have some of the best education, known to man, and they still dumb as hell, still ignorant as hell, and still don't know shit about shit, right? They just have enough money to be able to look like they know what the fuck they're talking about, right? And that's a big problem with academia in itself. People throw around, they parade their degrees, but they don't know shit, right? But I feel, and yes, they do know, but it's a whole thing. When talking about being smart, you gonna sit there and get good grades. You're gonna sit there and go to college. You're gonna sit there and do something with your life. And that was not just African parents. I've noticed, like, in the diaspora, was like only African. No, Black American parents also said you're gonna sit there and do something with your life. I remember seeing kids get popped in front of the class because they disrespected the teacher, or they got an F, or they acting up. I remember that. I was one of those kids that had gotten disciplined because I was sitting there acting a fool and I wasn't understanding some of the things that I needed to understand within class, right? I think that kids will be stupid and they will sit there and make fun of you about anything. You four eyes, your big brain, you think you're better than everybody else because maybe they're insecure. They feel like they don't have anybody supporting them in their endeavors. And when I say don't support them, maybe their parents don't have the time to be able to help them with their studies. Maybe their parents don't have the education to help them with their studies. And so maybe they feel some type of way because they're falling behind in class. Then they see somebody else who's black, who's able to sit there and do, be able to excel in their curriculum, and it's like, oh, you think you're better than me, da 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 da. That's just a scenario, a possibility, if you will. But I do feel that it's annoying when we do have black YouTubers and black social media people, and they create these narratives where it's like black people don't want to be smart. Black people don't try to be smart. I've noticed that also with the Nikki Giovanni thing, right? Where I was talking about her, she had her white partner, and there was people on Twitter that were saying, "Oh yeah, well you guys don't get it. A lot of black people can't find other black people who want to excel. A lot of black people can't find other black people who want to succeed. A lot of black people can't find other black people who want to be smart." And then to add insult to injury, they also would specify hood people, right? And I don't even want to sit there and just say hood people because a good amount of people in the hood can also be smart, also be educated. There's people out there who just so happen to come from the hood, who have gone to college, who have degrees. I'm in the middle class, right? I'm in the suburbs right now. I don't have a degree. I don't have it, right? But somebody could come from the hood and they have a degree, they're working on their master's. And so just because you come from a certain place doesn't automatically mean, that you don't want an education or that you don't strive for better. That's just not what that is. And I feel like it's very frustrating to have this discussion because we need to have an honest discussion about hood versus middle class. We need to have a discussion about classism. We need to have a discussion about class because this has always been a thing within the black community. The black bourgeoisie versus the working class blacks. The haves versus the have-nots. There has always been a dynamic, right? I've said this before, how I discussed the whole separation within the black community. The Black Panthers versus the NAACP. Like, that particular type of archetype is at the forefront of this conversation and continues to this day. But I do hate where it's like, growing up, if you're black, other black people didn't want to sit there. It was wrong for you to be an engineer. It was dumb for you. That's not true. Not every black person wanted to just be a fucking wanted to be a rapper. And again, if kids are saying that, it's just because of the popularity within hip hop. But that doesn't mean that the adults are all saying that. That doesn't mean that every single black person or even other kids think that that's lame. That's just not true. I don't like that narrative.
You don't want to be part of the NFL, which only like the top 1% make it to. And you don't want to be a part of a gang, which means risking your life every day, not being able to go to a bunch of places in your city, not being able to wear a bunch of colors, always watching your back, doing crimes for chump change, most likely getting a criminal record, catching fades in the county jail with people like 4 Extra.
Fighting while you're naked? That's a wet fight for let you right up on him. Don't bang on dead homies. I'll whoop him, knock him out naked, dead homies. Off the bat, it don't matter where you at him. You could be Space Monster. I'm shocking your ass out. We going in here. Oh, look, when I go to their dorms, I don't give if it's 30 of them in there. You gotta get on all 30. You gotta get on all of them.
I ain't giving no pass, so don't give me no pass, because I ain't giving you no pass in here. And I didn't tell you to sign up for it. So if you want to pass, you need to stop gangbang.
Hopping on drugs to cope with all the stuff you have to do as a part of that lifestyle. Probably not making it to 25. Wait, you're telling me you want to give all that up to be a doctor?
Did I just kept you on the beach?
Sweet. Lord have mercy. My baby.
It's become so common to see a black person as a thug or an athlete that there's been this unrealistic expectation set of black men. People view us as thugs, so automatically they expect us to be more macho, to not have any fear, and to be this hyper-masculine guy. I truly feel like in some people's heads, this is the state they think black boys are in 24/7.
I'm ready to...
I mean, that's patriarchy. That's man in general. But I do understand what he's saying because, like I said, I made a blog about how I didn't like being a black man because of that particular type of aspect of what it means to be, a black man. Even like here in my suburb, I wouldn't call it like culture. Like, we don't really have a culture because, again, hood culture is at the forefront of black culture, right? And then anything outside of hood culture is just white culture, even though it was made by black people. I don't know why we continue to do that, but that has been solidified within how we discuss our culture. Like, okay, if you're in the hood, okay, that's cool, that's black culture. Then we shit talk people from the hood, even though they are the reason why we even have a certain aspect of culture to begin with. It's a whole thing. I don't have the background to truly dive into the intricacies of that, just going to be honest. But what I do know is that, yes, growing up, they would sit there and think, okay, there would be certain people that would think, okay, only black people are supposed to act like this. But that's people from certain communities, right? And again, certain people from the hoods, they had people who would sit there and tell them, you're going to be a doctor. You're going to be this. I'm going to support you. It takes a village to be able to get to certain places in life. So not every single black man, not every single black boy had to be a thug or was going to be perceived as such, right? But I think there is a problem with the way that there's a prevalency of that being a representation of black men. But that doesn't mean that every single person that's black throughout the years supported that. No.
Reason why so many women have a fetish for black men. Because for a vet such as myself, you know that when dealing with a woman in that way, a lot of it is mental. That's why you see all these women from other races wanting a black guy. Because in their head, a black guy is super macho, hyper masculine. Oh, they give off this bad boy persona. And they love that. There's a reason we have tropes of those high-class, rich white girls who want to be edgy, so they go and mess with a black thug. It's so common to see in...
Oh, I can't even deny. I remember I made that TikTok and I was like, I see a lot of black men with white women. I know, and a lot of black men, they get upset, right, at the black women because the black women be with the white man. They say, oh, see, y'all talking, but this is what y'all do. And they justify it by saying, a lot of black men, they justify it by saying how they were bullied growing up. Funny enough, some of the stuff that he's actually saying right now about how he hates that and how he was judged for that and how, if you're black, you get judged for that in school. That's some of the main logic that a lot of black men use, or the reasoning that a lot of black men use for the reason why they date outside of their race, specifically white people, right? I don't know. It's something about white women. I guess maybe because they're just really willing to be with black men because of some of the stuff that he's saying. It is a fetish, and a lot of the black men, they feel better for doing it. It's a whole history to that, especially back in the day. The white dude was sitting there being, mistreating the black man in the workplace, or, he had a higher position than the black man. So the black man goes and has sex with his wife. Hopefully he doesn't get hanged. That whole thing. It's a whole history to that. Heterosexual black men kind of taking their power, or taking the white man's power by sleeping with the white man's women, and it's interesting how it persists to this day, but I really just don't understand, why it has to continue. I really just don't understand why we can't move from that situation. But the whole fetish thing is a real thing, and are black men going to stop doing that? No, they're not. They're not, okay? They're going to continue to do that. They're going to continue to mess with the snow bunnies. Even if it's at the detriment of their career, even if it's at the detriment of their health, even if it's at the detriment of their money, even if it's at the detriment of everything that they built from the ground up, they will continue to do it because I just need validation from people. I just need to be that man, right? And so it is valid in some of his assessments of that, but
when it comes to interracial relationships, a black man and a white woman is super popular. The only thing that I can think of that even comes close is a white man and an Asian woman. And the other side of this perception that people have of black men is that men from other races don't trust us around their wives. They literally think we walk around like Tyrone from Vine.
I'm talking have romantic dinner. I'm here to somebody's wife.
Bro, I'm telling you, your girl, your wife, whatever, she's safe. We don't want her. And see, these unrealistic expectations also carry over to our athletic performances. If you're anything over like 6'3" and you don't hoop, then you know what it's like to constantly have people telling you that you should be playing basketball. Now, as a black guy, that's kind of your everyday experience because we're usually either super tall, super fast, or super strong. And if we're not, we look like we are. And trust me when I say I'm talking from experience here, bruh. I'm talking from experience. On any given day, I could just be walking around and some old white guy will be like, oh, I know you can do 225 for at least 20 reps. Or they'll be like, what school do you play for? Or if I tell them that I have a full ride scholarship, they'll be like, what position? Running back? Whole time this shit is academic. And I really hate to admit it, but after being perceived as something for...
I hate the fascination specifically from white people. And I know this is going to sound very anti-white, but y'all already know what I be on. I hate that weird thing that they do where I have seen it from a heterosexual standpoint. I've seen it from a homosexual standpoint. In many different ways where it's just like, first it comes off as admiration, like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing. Then you realize just how superficial it is, right? You only see the value in me because of me being this, grandiose, this idealized version of what it means to be a man. And at the same time, you also low-key envy me. I hate it. Growing up, I was told, you're so big, you should play football. You should play football, right? You're so big. Right, my only sports that I look at is Vogue. That's the only sports that I look at as of late. That is my football, that is my soccer, that is my baseball, that is my hoop, voguing in the ballroom. They are athletes. You try to do it, you can't, right? And so growing up, though, I hated, having to hear that shit because I just wanted to be an artist. And I had people who supported me. I had people who said, oh, you know what? He just wants to be an artist. He's going to be an amazing artist. He's going to do, amazing with his art. And so I had people who supported those endeavors, right? And I think that's a lot of the issues within a lot of black families and black households. What I've seen online is people say they never got supported, right? Either they couldn't afford certain things in the arts. They couldn't afford to take you to that art school. They couldn't afford to give you that class. Or they could, but they just didn't want to because why would you want to do that? Or that's gay, or some other form of homophobia, some other form of patriarchy. I remember when somebody was sitting there saying online, and I need to stop, quoting Twitter, but that's where I get a lot of that's where you get a lot of interesting interactions between certain demographics, right? And it's not representative of everybody, but it does represent, I feel like, a good amount of society, right? Or a good amount of people within, certain communities in at least America, right? In other parts of the country. I remember seeing a little black boy, and he was just like, flipping, right? He was doing gymnastics. He wasn't doing no major red dance. He wasn't doing, the things that a lot of gymnasts do, where they like do the floor dances, and they're like flipping, and they're kind of, doing a bit of cheerleading and apparatic stuff. None of that. He was just like doing flips. Kids, when they're young, they do flips all the time. And, there was some people who was trying to do rage bait, or who was just trying to just start something because they was bored, being like, oh, that's gay, or I don't want my child to be gay. And, people fall for it, as they do all the time. And it's like, oh, I don't want to do this. It's like this constant debate, I noticed, specifically for men, where it's like everything that's outside of the norm, everything that's somehow experimenting, everything that is, just different, is gay or white. And the worst thing for you to be is gay. And then, of course, we don't want to be white, but we also want to idolize whiteness, and because they validate us, because they see us as a fetish, right? It's interconnecting in many different ways. But I find it to be very concerning and just very annoying. Every time I see a white girl with a black dude, or, I see a black girl with a white dude, I'm kind of just like, okay, especially if the white person is acting like a stereotype of a black person, they got the whole thing going on, the parents are kind of sitting in the background, maybe if it's a family outing, kind of just being like, girl, you do not act like that. You grew up in Lakeview, you grew up in a gated community. You did not grow up in the hood, so I don't know why you're sitting there saying these words. But, they play along because it's just like, well, little Sarah's going to do whatever she wants, and it's a whole thing. But it's like cringy. It's cringy because it's just constantly like, give me validation, give me more, give me more, give me more. And I do feel that how that could be, or how that it can get to that point, is honestly not giving black men a choice, not giving black men the ability to do other things, not giving black men the ability to express themselves, creating this rigid idea of blackness, creating this rigid concept of what it means to be black, or requirements of what it means to be black, and not giving black men any autonomy to be themselves, to be, experimental, to be this, to be that, to be, not giving them anything except, this is what you do, this is how you act, this is how you move. Again, I'm not saying that black men can't do that. I'm not saying that every single black man was beaten down and mistreated and they got thrown out the house. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that they're in the community, whether it is right in front of your face, or it's over there, or you hear it from somebody else, or people make comments, or whatever it is. There's always something there where it's like, well, you're not supposed to do that. Well, you're not. Oh, that's weird. Or we could tell you didn't grow up around these particular type of people. It's very strange to me. It's a very strange position to be in, and it shows what white supremacy is, because even when this is discussion about blackness, somehow it still goes back to white. Right, because they have a way of interconnecting with blackness, considering that, like I said, the origins is white people created race to begin with, in that way, in the West at least. And so there is a tethering of black identity with whiteness. No matter how much you try to get away, somehow it always circles back. How we escape it, I'm not there yet.
Long, a lot of us black guys are starting to embody that perception, and it's gotten to the point where we're almost forcing the image. I run across so much content online where it's just black guys acting ghetto and forcing this thug image unnecessarily.
I'm waving it over, yo, look like I'm crazy. Y'all know I'm the demon. I'm the young demon, my switchy race hell like Satan. Ain't doing no faking. I already sit on your house with that drink and be waiting.
So you're telling me your whole group's idea of looking fashionable is walking around with a ski mask and all black, looking like you're about to rob somebody? And yeah, you might make the point that, okay, the ski mask matches with their fit, but look at this.
I'm waving it over, yo, look like I'm crazy. Y'all know I'm the demon. I'm the young demon, my switchy race hell like Satan. Ain't doing no.
Now, why he got on a yellow ass hoodie and a black ski mask? And everybody else got on dark hoodies, so I guess it makes sense. But like, isn't the whole point to blend in? If you have a ski mask, isn't the whole point? Like, I'm not a thugologist, right? I don't study the academics of thug, but I assume the point is to blend in. You're supposed to blend in. So why are we looking like a fucking banana Laffy Taffy? I don't understand, right? But I digress.
I already sit on your house with that drink and be waiting.
They have
3 of your ex-boyfriends died. Sure, a few of my exes are dead.
They have no reason to be wearing a ski mask with this colorful ass fit. What's the point of wearing a fit that costs thousands of dollars if the girls can't even see your face? And y'all remember how I was talking about there's 2 professions, thugs and athletes? Well, they combined them now.
I don't need no gun if I go down, I'm ready to smack me. Hashtag youthful. I was like 15, 5 feet tall, trying to clap me. Y'all on his that nigga. He only hang with the killer. Nigga had a neck, cause in real life, spanking them. Lord knows I don't like them. You too if you hang with them. Fuck ops, then you want her ops. I don't care if you playing it.
It's because I'm little. I bet you ain't never got chased by a midget, mama. Caught him on phone thinking I'm the whole time I'm outside spinning.
We got these middle and high schoolers behaving like this like it's normal. Y'all throwing up these signs.
Okay, now he doing too much. Kids have always acted like that. Kids have always acted like that. Like, I don't know how old he is, but now he's getting a little sensational, right? Kids have always acted grown, always acted crazy, always said that and done that. I did it. Probably kids before me did it. They just had different slang words and different ways that they talked. Like, it's been like this for the longest. So I don't understand why he's trying to paint the picture like, oh my God, they wearing Mardi Gras masks. They got little, like, come on, oh, hold on. Now you're tripping. Okay, I can sit there and validate some of the other stuff he's saying. But it's like, we don't need to sensationalize it where it's this one thing that we do in the black community where we're like, oh my gosh, it's like, it's the end of the world for us. Oh my gosh, like we ain't got nowhere to go. Like it's the black community. Like, hold on. Calm down. Like, yeah, he was doing the pew pew pew. The other niggas be doing pew pew pew. Now, does he actually shoot or not? Who knows? Maybe he'll grow up and he won't do it no more. Maybe he will. Who knows? That's just his personality. And I don't know the kid, but I hate the way we perceive blackness sometimes, where we do see certain stuff like that and we're just like, we kind of clutch our pearls like, oh my gosh, like, oh, it's getting out of hand. It's like, it reminds me of how even a lot of my generation, we be going around, we be like, oh my gosh, we have kids sitting there just twerking to Sexy Red. And I'm like, wasn't we just singing eggs, bacon, grits, sausage? Wasn't we just sitting there saying my pussy, my back, my da-da-da, my crack? I forgot how it went. We was literally doing those songs back in the day. Y'all was sitting there grinding to different types of songs back in the day, acting like he was grown. Do not deny it. So I'm tired of this weird obliviousness where something happens with social media where we start to sit there and forget like certain stuff that we used to do. Like, girl, this is nothing new under the sun, right? Now I can sit there and critique the different ways of not allowing men to be, right? And it's not just like, oh, just allow men to be gay. No, that is a big part of it because a lot of this other stuff, you know, is gay or they treat it like gay, and gay is the worst thing that you can be as a masculine black man, right? It just is, right? Expand. You know, we need to expand blackness. I don't think you should sit there and say, we got to fully get rid of black identity. We got to fully get rid of blackness or race. We got to fully get rid of, you know, hoodness and thugness. How you going to do that? You going to go and you going to get everybody out the hood and you going to sit there and assimilate them. We're going to all snap our fingers like Thanos and we're going to say hocus pocus, no more hood. And you're going to get everybody's going to be in the middle class. And then how are we going to sit there and change that consciously, right? Because I can't stress enough, a lot of how this works is we identify so much of the authentication of blackness by how hood adjacent it is. So now you're sitting there trying to take away the hood. So once you do that, are we just white now? And someone's going to sit there and say, oh, girl, you're doing too much about it. But no, like, are we white now? Are we Caucasian? No, we can't just be Caucasian. We can't just automatically overnight just say hocus pocus, no more race. That's not how it works. You don't sit there and build something from generation to generation, have different types of societies be building and falling over a span of several years, built off of this thing called race and white supremacy and anti-blackness, and then think that somehow now in the 2020s we're just going to sit there and sing a happy song and say it's too hood now, so I don't want to be black anymore. I guess. But anyway, I'm going on a tangent. To get back to what he was saying, I just hate it. I feel like, okay, you're doing too much.
These hand gestures, like, what's your end goal here? Like, do you want everyone to look at you and be like, oh wow?
And also they also do that shit in sports all the time. You sit there and you talk shit. Oh yeah, I just killed that nigga. That's what that was. I bopped that nigga. I just got that nigga down. That's what that means.
Little goofy, he look like he act on Toby.
You know I'm a dog. Call me Scooby. On my block, it gets spooky.
We got YNs in the military. At least they're crashing out somewhere useful. At this point, I don't know if they're trying to protect the country or they're trying to rob the country. And this next clip kind of left me speechless.
It's giving anti-black. Some of the stuff he's saying is good points, but as I thought towards the end we was going to get a little bit better, but the more it goes, the more he sounds kind of like a conservative white housewife. Like, I don't know, the more it's getting towards the end, the more it's degrading into more just making up a whole bunch of stuff. I'm like, okay. I mean, do what you do. He's doing what he feels. This is how he feels. This is his YouTube channel. I'm just reacting. Do what you got to do.
That first time I go to jail, that's the first time every day. It's Wesley. The things ain't y'all found my phone?
Bro, I was sleeping. I don't know what the fuck.
I don't know my. I said, y'all find my phone?
It's obvious whatever crime they committed, they did it for an image. This idea of being able to tell their friends that they went to jail and in their head thinking they're badass. Whole time they don't even know that they set themselves back, because if they ever do commit real trouble, they won't have the excuse of saying, oh, it's a first time offense. And I can see right through the act because I've never seen or heard of any thug who's excited to go to jail. For my fellow black guys, the message I want to give you is, it's okay to be a chill guy. You don't have to be a YN, a thug, an athlete. And trust me, I know it's hard not to be those things, but it's okay to be a chill guy. Because I would hate for you to feel like you're forced to be something and then you end up like this.
Like, come on, man. You gotta understand, I'm 17, y'all finna put me in jail for a charge. I'm not finna, like, then what if I get convicted for this charge? I'm not gonna see the light of day, and I'm never gonna see the light of day again. Like, y'all, you wasn't even trying to work with me, like, work with you now. Like, you already knew you was gonna put me in jail when you came in here. Like,
So, I mean, what did you expect me to do?
man, they made it seem like y'all was just gonna interview me and I was finna go home. So, I'm going down for
Today, well, yes.
And for anybody wondering, I was just joking about hating being black. I do not hate being black.
No, that is not funny. That's not funny. That's not funny. That's like really upsetting. But like, no, he said that does sound like something like a 17-year-old would say though. Like, he really thought he was gonna murder somebody and just go home. Like, no, babes. Like, if you got caught murdering somebody, they gonna take your ass to jail. They're gonna take your ass to jail. But it's very funny because I feel like the biggest problem with all of this, he made some good points. I think the biggest problem with all this is not that it is inherently black or this is the only way to be black, but this is the only blackness that is being seen, right? And everything else that is outside of that is seemingly associated with white people, you know, or associated with whiteness, because whiteness in itself is the freedom to be whatever the fuck you want. Because if you are the default of society, you can be whatever the fuck you want. You can dive into a culture, dive out of a culture. If you are the one that is supposedly the default, a part of a culture that has come in and taken other people's culture or had that particular type of power, then it's easy for you to go into various different things and float and manipulate and do this, because in a way you don't have an identity, you know? So when you don't have an identity, you can be anything you want. But when talking about black people, when talking about what it means to be black, I do feel that it is very unfortunate because, you know, yeah, it's not about these people are bad, everybody from the hood is bad, or even some of these dudes who got caught up in the gang life or got caught up in stuff like that. I'm not going to sit there and assume like, oh, they deserve everything bad coming to them. There are people in their communities enabling them. I'm not saying everybody. There's probably some people in the hoods, the aunties, even though some of the men who are trying to get these kids off the street. But then there's also some who are enabling. There's some who are just letting it happen. There's some who are just sitting there watching it happen because that's just the way it is, and they had to deal with it, so now you deal with it. You were born into it, I was born into it, and that's just kind of passing down that traumatic legacy. And so I feel that even though it is easy to pinpoint every single shameful thing onto these particular types of images of blackness, we have to understand that if we really want to expand blackness, if we really want to have black people be who they want to be, then you have to expand the parameters of blackness. You have to expand what it means to sit there and be black. But we still have people still caught up on, people being, black man being seen as DL or bisexual or, is he gay? We still speculating upon a black man's sexuality. How the hell are we going to get to a point where we're able to see certain things that's outside of that particular type of traditional masculinity or that particular type of masculinity that we see within aspects of our pop culture? How are we going to do that if we still, a lot of the people who say they want to see different types of black people will still gag or clutch their pearls or feel some type of way because this is not something they're used to, right? And so it's this thing, this tug and pull within the black community where if you want to expand, then expand. Don't associate that with white people. Don't associate that with gayness. Don't associate that with Europeans, because at the end of the day, if you're going to change that, there has to be an effort. There has to not only be an effort outside in society, there has to be an effort within the ways you construct your family, and it has to be an effort within how you deal with that mentally, because there is going to be a back and forth that's going to happen mentally because we are so used to it being one particular type of way that even if we disagree with it, I may still sit there and be like, oh, that person acts white. I may still be sitting there saying, oh, that person is white adjacent. It's just something that naturally happens. So I can't come for anybody that feels that way or looks at someone or they think they're whitewashed, because it's just a natural occurrence that happens within your mental. But I do feel that we need to reestablish certain things, and we need to just develop it more. We just need to develop blackness and stop giving everything to white people. That is an aspect of white supremacy. A lot of people of color are the biggest perpetrators of white supremacy. And surprisingly enough, it's not just white people, right? It has moved on. It has affected so many of these people of color all around the world from various different cultures that they just teach it to their kids. They teach it to there's certain standards and certain things that were developed because of the trauma of white supremacy and all of these other different things that is so complicated. I'm just saying some of the same shit over and over and over again, but it's various different things that have happened that I would rather have a discussion with somebody else about it. But this was a very interesting video. And he said at the end, like, he doesn't hate being black, even though towards the end I was like, okay, you're doing a little too much. But I lived. This was great. Cool. Contradict myself.